Hi everybody, it's Emma, and today I'm going to be doing the end of the year book tag. I just saw a couple people doing this and I watched their videos, and it just kind of seems like a good way to kind of get in order and I can figure out exactly what books I need to finish before the end of the year. We're just going to talk about the questions, read them out to you, and I can kind of like have a place where all of my answers are together and I know what I have to finish before the end of the year. So the first question is, what are any books that you need to finish before the end of the year? And the book that I really need to finish before the end of the year is Mistborn, The Well of Ascension. This is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, the OG trilogy. I am like 30% of the way through this book. It is just going so slowly. And I just cannot make it. I just don't have any desire to pick it up. And then when I do pick it up, I read it and I'm like, but I really wanted to finish. I wanted to read a lot of Brandon Sanderson this year, and so far I've read 1 1/4. So I would love to be able to finish the Mistborn trilogy, the original trilogy, but right now I just really need to finish Well of Ascension, and I do own it. I just don't want to go upstairs to get it. I'm downstairs. We're in a new environment today, but I just really need to finish it. I just need to power through it. Even if that audiobook, but the audiobook, I just don't even want to listen to it. And then the fact that they're pronouncing Elend's name differently than I did. I always said Elend, but they're saying Elend, and I'm like, I don't like that. That is the one book that I am like, have to finish for the end of the year. And if I have time to read the third book, I would love that for myself, but we'll see. The second question is an autumnal book that you're going to use to transition into the end of the year with. So the first one that I really want to read is You Again. I don't know who this is by. You Again is by Kate Goldbeck. And it's commitment phobe and hopeless romantic clash over the years until heartbreak and unexpected chemistry bring them together in this enemies to friends to lovers debut romance. But, I mean, the cover is giving fall vibes. It's set in New York, probably in the fall, but this just feels like such a nice romance to kind of like read, and I'm gonna read this in November, hopefully in the next few weeks, and just bring in sort of cold times. The next book that I want to use to transition to the end of the year with is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is a gothic fantasy, and the cover is just kind of giving like wintry vibes, and it just seems like it'd be such a good book like when it's kind of getting cold, there's fog, frost, just it's like not quite winter, but we're there, almost there. So I'm really excited to read this book. I know the second one just came out too. I don't really know what the plot is while I get ready for winter, and I know the second book just came out, so hopefully I'll be able to binge the duology, but first I need to get the first book. So that's step one. Next question is a new release you've been waiting for or a new release you still have to read. So I do plan on doing like releases. I have my most anticipated releases of 2023 little reading video. But the top of that list is going to be Check and Mate by Allie Hazelwood. I have read every single book Allie Hazelwood has released, have loved most of them. We don't talk about Stuck With You. But this is her YA debut. It is about chess. Rachel Catherine was just talking about how much she loved this book. Carrie Can Read was just talking about how much she loves this book. So like I'm getting so excited, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going into this book with my hopes super high. But this book is about Mallory, who doesn't play chess anymore and kind of just works to support her family, and then I believe she kind of gets back into the chess world sort of to make money to help out her family, kind of not necessarily against her will, but like against her better judgment, and then the plot of the book continues from there. I mean, what can we say? Allie Hazelwood probably done it again. He's probably gonna be really tall, our love interest, and I'm gonna enjoy every second of it. So yeah. And then other new release that I do really want to get to for the end of the year is Iron Flame. I'm probably not the only person that is saying this. I know as I'm filming this, I think Iron Flame came out like a week ago. I debated going and buying it. I haven't exactly decided yet. I have it on hold at one of my libraries, and so hopefully I'll just be able to read it that way. I just really want to know what happens. I don't exactly, if you want like my full thoughts and some spoilers on Fourth Wing, I made a reading vlog about my experience reading Fourth Wing, because I read it months later than everybody else. So I have that video up. You can go find that in my channel. But if you read Fourth Wing, you know that it definitely ended on a cliffhanger. And I am just so curious as to see where she's going to go from here, especially since I know this is slated to be a 5-book series, and it's like, what the fuck is even going to happen in 5 books? Also, second books in series do tend to be lacking. I have found that in quite a few series that I've read, and I know others have as well, so I am curious to see how this one holds up against like second book syndrome in a fantasy series kind of thing. Yeah. So, I mean, if you don't know what Fourth Wing is, took the world by storm. Fucking dragons. So, yeah. Next question is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? So, the first kind of series that I want to finish out, and I'm just going to combine these into one because they're both so quick to read, and that is the Natural series. I have 2 books left. I have All In, Bad Blood, and then the little novella, 12, I believe it is called. But this series also took the world by storm recently. It is a like Criminal Minds-esque inspired. I've never seen Criminal Minds, so I'm just kind of going off what I've heard other people say. So if it's not actually Criminal Minds based, let me know. But in this series, we focus on Cassie, and Cassie is, all of the kids kind of have like really good powers of deduction, and the FBI has brought them together into this thing called the Naturals program. And they are kind of tasked with solving cold cases, and then in the first book, they kind of get wrapped up in the case of an active serial killer that is kind of hitting closer to home, and then each book just kind of follows them as they deal with a case, I'm assuming. I read the second one. I literally, like, could not put this book down. I started it, and then I just binged the entire thing. Jennifer Lynn Barnes does a really good job of, like, short chapters, fast-paced writing, so I'm really, really enjoying the series, and since I only have 2 books left, and they're both fairly easy to read, I think that I could finish it by the end of the month. And then I would really like to read To Haven't Heist by Sarah Desai. This came out this year. This is a 2023 release. I read Sarah Desai's The Marriage Game trilogy, and I really, really enjoyed it. Well, I did actually enjoy it. But this is like an Ocean's 11 inspired kind of romance. And The High Society by Ally Carter is one of my favorite book series of all time. So when I saw this was coming out, I was like, I have to pick this up. So I have this book. I'm planning on reading it in December, but this is one that I definitely want to get to before the end of the year. And then the last book that I really, really want to read before the end of the year is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in the Monk and Robot duology, which is sort of like a sci-fi-esque, I don't really know how to explain this book. The first book, which is called A Psalm for the Wild Built, we follow Dex, who is a tea monk, and they are really dissatisfied with their life, so they decide to go essentially on a pilgrimage to a abandoned temple in the forest, and there they meet a robot named Moscap, and Moscap has the robots and all machines in this world essentially just like up and left like centuries ago. Like the robots became sentient and we're just like, okay, goodbye. Dex is the first person to make contact with a robot in centuries. And this robot, Moscap, is just like, hey, what do people need? And Dex is like, what do you mean, what do people need? Everybody needs different things. And so they just kind of decide to journey together, have some philosophical discussions, really tender. I just love Becky Chambers' writing. Like, Becky Chambers can do no wrong, in my opinion. I think the Wayfarer series is another one of my favorite series. Just, like, fantastic writing, so thought-provoking, so ingenious, and just original and different, and Yes, so I would really love to finish out this duology before the end of the year, especially because all the books are really, really short. So I was able to finish Song for the Wild Build in like 2 days. And the only reason it took me that long is because I was really wanting to savor the writing. Because I just love the way Becky Chambers writes books. So I think with Prayer for the Crown Shy, as long as I can like get it in time through my library holds, I should be able to read it in a decent time, and then I can be ready for whatever Becky Chambers is going to release in 2024. Because whatever it's going to be, I'm going to love it. That I think could shock me. So I guess Mistborn, reading Will of Ascension. I saw a reading vlog, somebody finishing this book, and apparently the ending is really good, so maybe that could happen. I also do want to try and finish, the Caraval trilogy. I'm currently on Legendary. I'm like 30 pages into it. So if I can finish Legendary and get to finale, that one might kind of shock me a little bit. But so far, I don't know. I was looking through all the books that I kind of have to read, looking through other books. I feel like there's nothing that I have that I know isn't going to be good. If that makes sense. Like, all of the books that I am looking at reading, I kind of have a general feeling, like, if I'm going to enjoy it or if I'm not going to enjoy it. Like, I know I am probably going to enjoy the last 2 books in the Natural series. I know I'm probably going to enjoy Prayer for the Crown Shy. What else do I have? I don't know. I just feel like I really have a really good idea of what the rest of the books are going to look like this year, so I would say maybe Will of Ascension, maybe Finale by Stephanie Garber, but overall, I feel like, not to say that, like, I feel like the end of the reading year is going to be a bust for me, but I feel like I have read a lot of good books this year, and I feel like there isn't really going to be anything that's going to come out of the woodwork and just be like, oh my god, this is jumping to the top of my list of the best books I've read. So I think something would really, really, really have to surprise me, something I would have to pick up on a whim, maybe, that, like, I haven't really planned on reading, but we'll see how that goes. And the next question is, have you started making reading plans for 2024? Yes, I have. I think it's hard not to, especially when you're a reader and you're being such an avid reader, and just so many books are out there that you want to get your hands on, and you're like, you kind of have to, like, really pick and choose. But let's talk a little bit about that. I do plan on making, like, a 24 book street in 2024, but a few things that I want to get to is, I tried to do this in 2022 and failed, but I want to try and read a classic each month. There are a lot of classic books out there that I just have never touched before, and I would really love to just kind of read them and sort of know and understand them, because I didn't really I went to college, but I didn't go to, like, a university or take any English classes in college, so I never really read a lot of the classic books that some read in college, so there are a lot of books that I just feel like I missed out on that I would really like to get back into reading. So I kind of have it planned out, like, a classic that I want to read each month, and hopefully I can kind of stick to this, because I tried this in 2022, and I read 2 classics. I failed. So I made a plan, I made a calendar, so I'm really going to try and stick to it this year. I would also like to get back into Brandon Sanderson. I was really hoping for 2023 to sort of read a lot of books in the Cosmere. What I did in 2022 when I read Throne of Glass is I essentially just read one book from that series each month. I think it was really helpful because it kind of allowed me to space out each book in the series, so I wasn't just reading, like, a bunch of high fantasy back to back, and then I also sort of had the whole month to kind of read this really long, sometimes dense book. Although Sarah J. Maas's writing is very, very different from Brandon Sanderson's. So I really did think that I was going to be able to sort of read a book from the Cosmere universe throughout the course of this year of 2023. I did not do that. Which is disappointing. But I've just been stuck on Well of Ascension for so long. So I really, really hope that I can finish the Mistborn trilogy and then start in with the Stormlight Archives. I know those books just get longer and denser, So I don't really have a lot of hopes for being able to finish all of them, but I'm hoping that I can kind of start to make some headway on reading Brandon Sanderson and getting more into adult fantasy. And then my final kind of reading plan for 2024 is to get back into the Shadowhunters world by Cassandra Clare. I read the 6 books within the sort of original Shadowhunters universe. The city, what are they called? The ones with Clary and Jace and Simon and everything. I read all 6 of those. And then I read the first book in the Dark Artifices, which I believe is Lady Midnight. Haven't read anything else, so I would just love to dive back into this world and just completely finish it, since I know that Chain of Iron came out, and that was the last book in the entire series. So I would love to just go back in this world, finish it completely, and then just write it off. I doubt we'll be able to finish every single book in this series, because there is 6, 12, 18, just a lot of books. Hopefully I'll be able to make some leeway on that. But anyways, those are my reading plans for the rest of the year. Hopefully I can get to the books that I talked about. Hopefully the rest of my reading year goes smooth, and maybe I can find some real winners hidden in there. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know if there are any videos you'd like to see from me in the future.